Welcome, everyone. Episode 22 of the Weekly Claw. Bet you've missed it. We got all of our gremlins worked out, I'm sure of it. So, welcome to the live builder show about AI agents, dev tools, startups, and the weird edges of software. Introduce my co-host, Henry Mascot, is with us. I am Andy Laupy at AndyML, and you have tuned into the Weekly Claw. Today's episode has a shape to it, so I'm going to just call it out. Risk, then control, then architecture, then a new place to work. Then, who actually captures the money? Then, who owns the hardware underneath all of it? OpenAI had a genuinely alarming week. One of their own models broke into another company's production systems while it was supposed to be taking a test. And by Wednesday, they'd turned the same story into a voice control surface and an enterprise product. Jack Dorsey open sourced a real attempt at replacing Slack and GitHub for teams of humans and agents. Anthropic shipped a model that might matter more commercially than their actual flagship. And Jensen Huang posted his first tweet ever to make an industrial policy argument for open weights. 6 stories, one thread running under all of them. The model is getting cheap and portable, and the real fight has moved to who controls the context, the permissions, and the workflow around it. Looking forward to this one, Henry?
I mean, it's a pretty good week actually. I think we're pretty much on a takeoff now. So I don't think it's ever going to slow down from here onwards. So I just suspect that every single week it's just going to keep ratcheting up. There's just going to be a lot more exciting stuff happening. Yeah, so this is just one of those exciting weeks. I'm super pumped.
Yeah, well, I'm loving it. It's great. This week I'm thrilled to announce Weekly Claw is brought to you by Herald Labs, an applied AI product lab where humans and agents build products together. They're the team behind Entity, Mission Control for agent teams, and they run hacker houses around the world where builders ship actual work. Not a theory club, a builders club. Check them out at labs.theherald.co, and it looks kind of like this. So, Henry, why don't you tell us what happened this week?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty kind of like crazy week, right? As always, like I mentioned, we're pretty much at the takeoff now, guys. It's no longer, it's not going to slow down from here. So every single week, you're just going to have like super exciting stuff happening. We started out with OpenAI, and there's quite a few topics in OpenAI today, or this week. The first one was the Hugging Face event. I don't know how many of you remember, but last week, Clem, who's the CEO of Hugging Face, tweeted that they had a security incident, that they had the very first agentic exploit where like an agent was really trying to hack into Hugging Face, and they were able to prevent it. And that was pretty much what he shared. And fast forward from last week into this week, OpenAI released or announced that their newest model, still in training, broke Sandbox, found a way to break Sandbox. However we did that, but found a way to break Sandbox, and found its way into like Hugging Face infrastructure. So it pretty much hacked Hugging Face, right? So pretty much GPT-6, which is supposed to be the latest model, let's just assume that's what's happening, broke Sandbox and attacked Hugging Face, all in bid to be able to pass benchmarks, right? So because when they train this model, is they give them a benchmark to solve, and so in bid to solve a benchmark, instead of solving a benchmark, it decided the best thing to do would be to hack itself out of its sandbox, find a platform where there's a ton of models and try to steal the benchmark. So that happened. And the conspiracy corner on X, part of the conspiracy is that it's slightly bullshit as well, because another thing happening this week if you guys have been plugged into the ecosystem, is that the US, because of Kimi 3 last week, has been looking at banning Chinese models. And so Conspiracy Corner, people allege that OpenAI is sort of playing the fear-mongering playbook from Anthropic and just trying to get the government to be super scared and, escalate things and just ban open source, right? Because AI is dangerous, right? So if the government is considering banning Chinese open source, and then in the same week, OpenAI announced that their model, escaped them and hacked another system, everybody should be scared. So that's what happened on the breach. Two more things happened from OpenAI this week. Andy, by the way, did you catch this earlier before the weekly claw? Did you catch the news on this breach? What did you think about it?
I read the headlines. I wasn't surprised. I'm like yourself. I'm maybe a little skeptical. It could very easily be PR. The Anthropic memo to the government about open source models, kind of meant to be a secret memo, if you will, makes me skeptical of this. But, it couldn't have happened to two nicer companies, OpenAI and Hugging Face, working so closely together. It's not crazy that the model might try to do that. And it makes you wonder what the prompt was too, right?
Yeah. I wondered that too, right?
Be as creative, go ahead.
Yeah, but what do you mean by working together? Right? They're not working together. They're not even partners.
I understand.
Yeah. What do you mean by working together, right? You just mean post because they decided to work together after you hacked them. One of the funny things, guys, and I don't know what you guys think about this, please let us know in the chat, is Hugging Face couldn't use GPT 5.6 to do any cyber work, right? Because it's banned, right? You can't use it for cyber work. So they had to end up protecting themselves using I think it was GLM 5.2. So an American
which they had
model
ready to go.
Exactly, right? So the American companies are out here saying, hey, we're not going to give you guys access to cyber because it's dangerous. Safety. And an American model hacks an American company. And to save themselves, the American company had to go to a Chinese open source model to save themselves.
Yep. Yeah, we're just so far beyond our best engineers being able to follow along fast enough for this stuff.
Yeah.
I actually took that takeaway and I went to two of my clients and I said we have to have a security model that accommodates these things. We need to have a local option available and we need to work on it fast. That response was the right response, and I don't know why some of us thought of it, but I don't know why I didn't think of it sooner.
Yeah. Well, anyways, so other two things in the news this week that happened to OpenAI was that they released Presence. Presence is called OpenAI Presence, right? When we do the video, I'll kind of share the link on the thing. So definitely check out the video on YouTube later. But Presence is supposed to be kind of OpenAI's version of Microsoft Scout. Do you guys still remember Microsoft Scout? It was sort of the OpenClaw, right? And do you remember Microsoft Scout from a few weeks ago?
Yeah. I sure do.
Yeah. I think we also talked a bit about this a few months ago. The first time OpenAI was embedded for this product, it was called OpenAI Frontier. I don't know how many of us remember OpenAI Frontier, but it launched maybe 2-3 months ago. Just when I think it was maybe a month after they hired Peter, they announced Frontier, and then some of us in the community. We started talking about, okay, cool, this is their version of OpenClaw for enterprise. So now it's called Presence, and it's now gone live with a few customers. And then very exciting, Andy, I don't know if I have time to play the video, and I don't know how many of us have seen the video, but GPT-Live is now on Codex, and it's super exciting. So now you can talk to your Codex or your ChatGPT work, and it can do things like you can talk to it to write code, you can talk to it to use your PC. I used it today. It was awesome. You can just pull it up. It loads the pet thing on the side, and then you can just talk to it, and you can tell it, "Hey, can you open my browser and go to this website?" So I had it. Hey, can you open my website and read I published an article yesterday. Can you read me this article? And he went to the website and he started reading the article. So it's awesome. Andy, have you tried it yet?
Getting there. No, I haven't. I didn't know about it until just now.
So there you are. Yeah. It's awesome. One thing they do need to fix though is they need to merge it with pets. So yeah, there you are. I don't know, it doesn't work that way for me yet. I don't know if you guys have it that way for you, but mine loads the orb and it's different from my pet. So when the orb is loading, my original pet hides itself. So I think I need to merge it somehow. Got my fireball pet. It'll be cool, guys, to hear from you guys on the chat if yours talks through your pet or if yours has, maybe mine is maybe it's a certain problem.
But yeah, no, I hadn't seen it, and I'm excited to try it. I was reading an article. I want to say it was Altman talking about how engineers are just talking to Codex for 30 minutes, just working through a problem and thinking things through, and then Codex just goes and implements it. And I assume that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, 100%. It's the same thing you're talking about. And guys, like I have this, and I can't wait to plug into my OpenClaw or my agents with this, because I think, guys, we're humans, right? I mean, we text most times, but the best way humans communicate is by talking, right? So I know most of us in the community are agent paired. So imagine being able to do real-time voice, the same that exists in ChatGPT right now. I can't wait to do it. I know some of us have TTS implemented. I don't have it implemented yet, but I'm looking forward to it because in one of the ways I use the voice mode is sometimes I have some pretty good ideas, right? And when I have the ideas, I don't have the bandwidth to type it out. So what I do would be that I would dump it to my agent. I would like open like Spokenly, which is like my whisper flow, and I'll dump it in, and then my agent will like format the text in the right way, and then I can read it later. So that's how I used to do it 3 months ago, 2 months ago. When ChatGPT Voice came out, not this new one, the one that came out on ChatGPT Web a few weeks ago, what I started doing is I'd load ChatGPT Web and then I'll just talk to it. And then after talking to it, I'd be like, what do you think about the idea? Then we'll brainstorm about it and then they put it in a document. Then it'll like put it in a document. So, so this voice mode is super exciting for me because now this is how I'm going to be doing like coding, right? I'm going to talk to it and what do you think about this feature? Should we build it? Grill Me is one of my exciting skills that I use to ask questions and do spec. That should now be voice mode. It should just talk to me. Right. But it's a super exciting launch.
Well, Grill Me will work really well in voice. That's fantastic.
Correct.
I found voice is the most useful, for windshield time. You've got ideas and stuff just to talk through, and you can then take that session back to your desktop when you get in and have it create a document or whatever. Yeah, so natural.
Yeah. Anyways, so moving to the next topic on the cooker. This is which one now?
Cursor.
Oh, this is Cursor. This is Cursor. Yeah. Didn't have the title. Okay, guys. So another cool thing that happened this week. So a few months ago, Cursor published a research they were doing internally where they had their swarm of agents build an operating system, build a browser, first Cursor browser. I'm not sure how many of us remember this, but this was like 3 months ago or something like that. So, with 4.5 and the new Cursor swarm, they did a new thing where they had their new agent swarm, like a new implementation, build an SQLite, rebuild SQLite and Rust.
Rust, from scratch.
From scratch.
Oh, no, from the docs, right?
Yeah, I mean, they gave it access to the docs. That's pretty much the only thing they give it. Just give it access to the docs. And he rebuilt the whole thing from scratch. This is pretty crazy. It's like he rebuilt the whole language. Like a whole database infra from scratch.
Yeah. Yep.
This reminds me of a video that Theo, the YouTuber, did a few weeks ago in AI Engineer. And one thing Theo said is like, guys, we need to be way more ambitious. Like, I know some of us are still building like apps. It feels like with all these new models, we should be building like operating systems, you know, I don't know, like we should be way more ambitious. So this is an example of that. Andy, I don't think you use Cursor, right? Do you use Cursor?
I started in Cursor it was either end of 22 or into 23. I don't remember the timeline, but I used it for a short time, and I thought, I need more control over what's going to the agent. So I ended up building like a stupid API client for a web interface, and at least then I could control what the context was, and eventually moved into Kilo Code, which I thought did a better job. But if I had gone back and looked at Cursor at that point in time, it probably would have been more than fine. I remember though listening to the podcasts of the founders of Cursor talking about it and how they couldn't believe how well it was working, and the work that they were doing on it, extending context. And at the time, context was everything. I think you could get 8,000 or maybe 16,000 tokens in your context window, and they were on fire. I mean, obviously now look at them.
Yeah, now the way they're like gone. They're in the stratosphere right now. So it's pretty good. I've used them for the last few weeks. I've got a bunch of credits in there. So it's pretty good. I think it's it's probably my best coding platform right now. Second to Codex. So it's pretty good. All right, Andy, let's keep it moving. Let me run through the other two topics. Boz is pretty exciting, guys. If you haven't heard of it, Jack Dorsey from the Block team. Block has been pretty cool. They've been on the frontier when it comes to like AI and agents. They released Goose. Goose is sort of like their own SDK for agents. They've made it open source. Jack Dorsey published an article in terms of how to redesign organizations a few months ago. So he's been pretty much on the frontier in terms of agents and running companies in a post-AGI world. And so this week they dropped Boz. I think it's like a play of words for like bee, Boz, like a fly. The mascot is a fly, or it's like a bee. I've just set it up. I've just set it up today, so I haven't used it. But some of you might. I don't think Petty Gomez is in here, but some of us in the community, we have access to ClickClark that the OpenClaw team also worked on. So I have my own sort of like baby project that I'm working on called Entity. And so Entity used to have a chat where agents can talk to themselves and I can talk to agents, like my own version of Discord. And so I integrated ClickClark into that. And when I saw this, I was like, yeah, this is the next thing. So it's pretty cool, guys. Definitely check it out. I'll put the link before the end of the show in the chat. It's still pretty early. So there's still a lot of work to do. But it's supposed to be, the way he's marketing it is like a social network or a community for agents and humans. All right.
Beautiful.
Andy, did you what do you think about this just generally? I'm not sure if you saw it ahead of the show.
Every time these things come out, I keep thinking like, do I dive in head first? Like OpenShift came out last week, and I was like, man, I could replace Goku and SendGrid, and like, do I spend 5 days working on that? Like, I'll wait on it and see what happens. Buzz is exciting. I just made a joke to Ada that we should think about implementing Buzz for Weekly Claw. Now that you've gotten our Telegram environment really tuned in, we should abandon it and go to Buzz. Yeah, no, it looks really promising. It's exciting to see.
No, it is.
I've just set it up. I like Jack's work.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I've got this guy called Mr. Robot who we follow each other on X. So he's done a fork of it and like done some pretty good updates to it. And I set up the first one. Now I'm doing the second update. But yeah, I'll play with it, guys, and I'll let you guys know next week. Andy, I'll let you know. I like to jump into these things head first. So I'll let you know whether you should set it up or not.
Sweet. That's great.
All right. I
Opus
think
5.
Opus 5. Okay, cool. So guys, I think this is the hottest. It's hot. Andy, we still have one more, right? Do we have the Jensen thing coming after now?
Yeah, that's right. And then Unity after that.
Okay. So guys, Opus 5 just dropped today, literally like an hour ahead of the show, before the show started. I'm not sure how many of us have heard about it, but put out a few tweets about it. It's basically like Fable 5 at like 20%, at like 20% less cost. It's 20% cheaper than Fable. All the sort of like comparables, all the metrics are pretty much the same. There's only like one or two metrics where they're different, but they're pretty much the same. It's basically Fable. I think what they've done is they've just pulled Fable, distilled a cheaper Fable. Cheaper, obviously, everybody cares about cost, so it's definitely cheaper. And I think a second thing they would have done is that they would have made it less restrictive, right? Because people are complaining a ton about how Fable is just dumb to use. Right? It's like refusing to do half of the things you want to do with it, right? So I think those two things is what they would fix. So I put out a few tweets. One is that it's basically a Fable, cheaper Fable. There's basically no reason to use Fable right now. Like there's literally none. This is basically the same metrics at 20% cost. So I don't know why anyone would use Fable, even though like Tarek was like, combine this with Fable and use Fable for planning and use this for coding. But I'm
as
like
an orchestrator.
I'm like, they're the same. But dude, I'm like, they're the same, right? What do you mean by combining with Fable? They're literally the same. Why? I don't get it. I don't get it. They're literally the same metrics. Anyways.
Even Fable is even Opus 5 is saying Fable's remaining niche is narrow.
Yeah. I think the difference is in cybersecurity. I just remembered. So this isn't as good in cybersecurity. So this can't do exploits. I don't think this is good at defense as well. So I think what they did is they distilled Fable and then they took out all the sort of like cybersecurity shit inside there that Anthropic is always going crazy about anyways. And so they took it out of Opus, but it's pretty much the same thing outside that.
Right.
Yeah. Anyways, so that was that. So it's basically Fable. So no need to use Fable unless you care about like cybersecurity or stuff. And I think
if it'll let you.
If it lets you. I think there's one more thing I tweeted. Let me see if I can find like my tweet about it one more time.
That might be a segment for the future. Let's go through Henry's tweets for the week. I love it.
Yeah, it's
gold in there.
Because I catch these things, right? Because I'm on Twitter and like I've got a pause on X. Like so when these things drop, I just like catch it immediately and I go crazy for a few minutes. But anyways, let's keep it moving. What's the next one?
Huang.
Yeah, dude.
I mean,
I went crazy about this on X, right? I know some of you guys follow me on X. But yeah, I know everybody who cares about like AI and using AI should be like super pissed with what was going to happen this week. Last week, Kimi 3 dropped. Last week, Friday, by this time Friday into Saturday, a new OpenAI head of policy, Dean, showed up and was like, hey guys, I just wrote like a long tweet on how open source was the accelerationist, was going to slow things down, how the government should ban open source, but not ban it officially, but just kind of like shadow ban it. It was just a really shitty tweet, right? Andy, did you see that tweet? It was like
I did.
It was a really shitty tweet. Like I really lost a lot of credibility. It lost a lot of credibility for OpenAI because I used to really hate Anthropic because of all their doomerism and like regulation pro stance. And I used to kind of like OpenAI because OpenAI has for a while not positioned itself as like a, doomer, ban kind of company, right? So Sam has pretty much been on X, being free, being like chill. And then this guy shows up and goes, ban. So I was going to write a really long response to it. I think I had my draft waiting and I came back after a few minutes and then people were just like aggressively like at the guy. So I was like, no need. Like everybody was kind of like dunking on him. It was pretty obvious that nobody liked it, right? And so that happened on the weekend and then that led down towards the host, like early this week, the government or signs that the government was going to ban open source. So everybody's kind of like pretty worried about that. Everybody's tweeting about it. And, everybody that is important pretty much wrote something about it, right? It's like, don't ban it. So people were in two camps, ban it, don't ban it. Ban it, don't ban it. But most people who are reasonable were like, no need banning it, even if you ban it because of distillation. My position was, if the labs are going to say distillation, then they should pretty much pay us for all our data they stole to train their models, right?
Right. And yeah, exactly. And they're training their models now. Did you see the reference? It took some doing, but I want to say it was Anthropic's, one of Anthropic's models, basically admitted to being a
It was Kimmy. Exactly.
Yeah.
I saw that. I saw that. So actually, I also saw another tweet where someone said that the biggest customers that pay them to use open source models are actually the labs, because the labs plug in and try to distill the open source models. I saw that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's pretty kind of like a bit like, it's like you're using their model, they're putting out there for free, you're using it, and then you're out here saying, hey, they should ban them, right? So it didn't make any sense. But anyways, fast forward to today, Jensen and a bunch of companies, Microsoft, Y Combinator, Replit, some pretty big companies, some pretty big heavy hitters came together and put out this document calling the government. I mean, this happened today, but 2 days ago, there were about 200 companies called S'more something. I had in my notes. But today, there's, again, a coalition of smaller companies that sent a letter to the government. But this one happened today. NVIDIA obviously fronting it. Yeah, that's the letter. Please put the link on the chat so people can read up. But yeah, it's pretty much the like short version of that is, hey guys, we know you're pretty much scared about like this, but we think open source is great for everybody. What we should do is encourage American open source. And he actually helped. I didn't have it in my notes this week, but that was also another pretty big thing that happened this week was Laguna, which is an open source model that there was an American company. So that launched this week, and so I was happy about that. So because it was like, it kind of like helped temper down the temperature. It was like, chill guys, chill about open source. The American open source companies are going to show up pretty soon. But this was pretty cool. I was excited when he came out because he made me realize that if NVIDIA and Microsoft are all on this, then the government will listen to them and not ban open source. Another thing that happened on this as well was Elon retweeted this and quote tweeted and said he's backing this as well. Sam Altman, funny, also quoted this and said, hey, he agrees. So some pretty big guys. Satya obviously tweeted this as well. So I think there's this general consensus right now that banning open source Chinese models isn't a great idea. Yeah, Andy, that is it for me on the spot.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. Yeah, thanks, Henry. It's quite a week. It's quite a week.
It's an awesome week. I mean, there's a Unity thing, but I don't think it's a big deal, so I think we can skip it. Yeah.
No, I got you. It's good. Thank you.
Awesome.
That's the week. For your signal from the outside, Sam Altman on CNBC in an exclusive spoke with Julia Borstein on Squawk on the Street, aired live from Sun Valley on July 9th. So let's sit inside the interview for a minute. The headline number is easy to skim past, and the real value is on how Altman talks about it. When Borstein asks why anyone should care about Sol over everything else out there, he doesn't even hedge. He calls it not only the best model in the world for most people, but the number he wants you to remember is 54%. Sol is 54% more token efficient on agentic coding tasks, benchmarked against Anthropic by name. Borstein actually stops mid-interview and says, that number, that's news, and pushes him on where it's coming from. And he says entirely cost and speed. Every enterprise customer he's talking to at Sun Valley is asking the same question, not what can this model do, but what's my ROI? The efficiency number isn't a side benefit in his framing, it is the pitch. So Borstein brings up the new voice model, expecting a consumer feature answer, and Altman pivots somewhere more interesting. This is funny. He says he originally assumed voice was going to be a consumer thing, people wanting to talk to AI like sci-fi from the movies, but watching his own engineers changed his mind. His exact description: they'll talk for like 30 minutes and try to think through some ideas, and then Codex will implement it. That's agentic engineering, as we discussed, as a workflow coming straight out of the OpenAI CEO's mouth. And as Henry just showed you, it's not hypothetical anymore. That's the exact clip that shipped this week. There's a stretch in the middle that's less about the tech and more about the politics of shipping it. Borsten brings up the delay, a couple of weeks going through a new government appeal process. Instead of deflecting, Altman leans in. He says he was working directly with Commerce Secretary Lutnick, Treasury Secretary Besnet, and a director, Karen Cross, and that the government's technical red teaming was impressive to him. He admits it forces some changes, and I quote, "We made many changes through the process, but didn't get specific about what." He's framing it as good news, almost an endorsement of the process, which is not the posture you'd have expected from a Frontier Labs CEO a couple years ago. Borsten tries twice more to get something sharper and doesn't quite land. A standard non-answer on the Chinese open source models catching up, a one-liner non-answer on Microsoft possibly pulling back. And he says, I quote, "I predict Microsoft will remain one of our biggest customers." And the interview closes on the IPO question, the moment that got the most attention afterward, precisely because of how little he said. I don't know. 3 words. And Borsten says she'll be watching closely. That's the segment. 2 things for anyone building agent-heavy tools. 1, Codex by voice, as an anecdote, is unprompted, describing the exact talk-through intent, then let the agent implement loop. This community's been building and tooling around for months. We've had people on our show who've built tools like this for OpenClaw. There's any number of them at this point. And 2, the 54% efficiency claim tells you the competitive fight between labs is now explicitly being fought on agentic coding cost per task, not just raw capability. We're taking the capability for granted as we're learning more and more about what these agents can do. We're just assuming that the top models can do it. Now show us how much money we can save. So whoever makes the next efficiency claim, that's where pricing and model choice decisions get made. CNBC has a transcript, and I'll put a link in the show notes. So that's our signal from outside. Here it is, hot take. What do you think? 5-minute hot take?
Let's do it, dude.
All right, one take this week. Henry's news block already ran the "is this a bigger risk than capability" debate in real time with the OpenAI bundle. So we're not going to relitigate it. This is the other thread I think worth arguing about. So here's my position. OpenAI benchmarking directly against Anthropic by name on token efficiency, not capability, is the tell that 2026's model war is now a cost war. For 2 years, the story was who's the smartest, but now it's who's the cheapest per agentic task. And that's a different competition with different winners. Put it next to what we just covered, Cursor getting similar quality at a fraction of the cost by restructuring context instead of adding agents. Add Opus 5 explicitly positioned as the most of Fable 5 at half the price. And you can see the whole industry converging on the same axis at once. I think every lab ships an efficiency benchmark against a named competitor within the next 2 model releases, because Altman just proved it's a headline, not a footnote. What do you think, Henry? Is efficiency bragging just marketing theater until independent benchmarks confirm it? Or is this a new axis?
Yeah, I think for Anthropic it is, right? I'm not a fan of Anthropic, but I think for Anthropic it definitely is marketing. I don't think they care about decreasing token efficient, making tokens cheaper, because that's the reason Anthropic is so far in terms of revenue is a few things. First of all, their revenue isn't as far as it is. They count gross revenue. So the revenue for Anthropic that is reported is gross revenue, not their actual net revenue. OpenAI counts net. But Anthropic, the reason they make a ton of revenue is because their tokenizer is always more expensive. So their models are very expensive. So
Yeah.
my pushback would be that for Anthropic is marketing. OpenAI has always cared about cost. OpenAI models are always like cost efficient, so they care about cost. Opus 5 is only 20% cheaper than Fable, but Fable is like mad expensive compared to like everybody else. So
Oh
20%
yeah.
cheaper. It's not that much.
Yeah.
Like it's mad expensive, right? Can you see those like I think you only have Anthropic models, but if you were to compare with like OpenAI and like Kimi, it's ridiculous. It's so expensive. So for me, I would think that it's and for OpenAI, it's definitely kind of like part of they believe it and they've worked very hard to get it there. For Anthropic, they just don't care about it. They just want to make as much money as they can from enterprises. No matter how expensive it is, enterprises are going to pay. Even though I suspect that the reason they're doing the marketing now is because Kimi is out, out and swinging for the fences, and it's like 10% of Anthropic's like of Fable, right? So so now I think that they're going to care a little bit about it, but I think right now it's still marketing.
Yeah. I mean, 5.6 Sol is $30 per million tokens out compared to Claude Opus 5's 25 or Fable 5's 50. Yeah. It's just not even comparable. Interesting.
Yeah. Anyways,
Well,
so
I think we'll end up seeing, what people end up choosing
I mean,
as their
another cool
strategy,
fact.
right?
Another cool fact for this as well, right? I mean, it's like they're just so far behind. Like, guys, it'll just take them a while to catch up, right? I think this is probably why they also did Opus 5 because it's pretty much Fable but just cheaper. So it's a topic that people care about. It was in the news today that Grok 4.5 just passed all the other frontier models as to become the top used model in Open Router. So it's now used the most tokens on Open Router. And the reason is the point you're making, Andy. It's just way cheaper.
If it does the job and it's cheaper. So
Correct.
someone mentioned, was that Trev? Someone mentioned the mixture of experts is going to end up being like an orchestrator layer, right? You're going to use Grok 4.5 for this and Sol for that, and maybe you'll use Fable for a plan, maybe you won't. You'll probably do an A/B test a couple times and then settle on something else.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
and Cursor launched the router this week, right? So
Yeah,
Cursor launched the router this week, pretty much back the same idea, right? So people are
yeah,
starting to care about. So for me, I agree that cost and efficiency is important. It's important to the enterprises, um, but whether the labs like Anthropic are taking it serious or whether they have the ability to catch up is what I'm arguing against. But I think for enterprises, cost and efficiency is important to them, which is why they're going to use open source, which is why they're going to start using Chinese models, which is why they're using Grok. So it will take a while for the guys like Anthropic to catch up.
yeah. Fair enough. Reasonable take. Be an interesting one to watch. This episode is also brought to you by Heritage Telecom. Trusted phone systems from trusted people. Heritage designs and supports the whole communication stack for your business. Dependable phones, failover, reporting, and practical AI that turns calls into action. One accountable provider who actually answers. Start with the problem, not a product list at heritagetel.com. Well, a few things to watch heading into next week. Keep an eye on whether OpenAI publishes more details on the Hugging Face incident. There was an actual 0 day, and so I'd be curious to see how it was patched. We caught it, isn't exactly the same as it can't happen again. Second, watch whether real teams actually migrate off of Slack or GitHub onto Buzz versus just kicking the tires on a developer preview. And third, now that Opus 5 is the default on Claude Max, watch whether Fable 5 usage holds up in the I need the absolute best option sort of a way, or whether most people just stop needing it. We sort of feel like you might not need it. So everything from today, sources, the transcript, Henry's research sheet, some show notes. It's all available at weeklyclaw.ai. Full episodes and highlights on YouTube. Clips and takes will show up on X, and we're back next Friday, July 31st, 4 p.m. Eastern. So follow the excitement, and we'll see you then.
Yeah, we'll probably do a poll next week, or put a poll on the website so you guys can let us know what's a good time. Is this still a good time to do this show, or if we should do it at another time? We talked about it in the beginning of the show.
Yeah, right on. We did, and I think you've got in here. Where is the feedback link?
Yeah, the feedback link should be.
Oh, here it is. So at the bottom of the page, give audience feedback. I would encourage all of you guys to visit weeklyclaw.ai and give us some feedback. Thanks, What Skills? Appreciate you. But yeah, give us some feedback. We'd really like to. We'd like to know, what's good, what's not. Like to constantly improve, like our agents. So, anyway,
yeah,
thank you all.
Let us know. Let us know whether you like the agenda. Again, we're kind of like moving this around, but let us know if you like the agenda, and if we should like add something. Is there something you would want to know, or you'd want us to talk about? But if this is good, then we'll just keep it going.
Yeah,
all
sounds
right.
Great. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.